Yeah.
We talking about stonks, baby. So, I think everyone got in on a juicy stock story at the same time. Everyone in America at the same time, which I don't know how often that happens. Maybe once every 10 years. Maybe something like that. But
probably the last time it happened was when Wolf of Wall Street came out, and people were like, "What are stocks?" That was probably like everyone's introduction.
Yeah, that was another big event, definitely.
It's been crazy watching all of that evolve because that was the whole reason Robinhood initially became a thing, was it was trying to democratize investing, was literally their catch line, which is a great idea. I mean, that's the point of the stock market. You know, it used to be back in mercantilism day and the aristocracy, you know, you didn't get to own anything.
Yeah, so, you owned what you could protect and kill to protect.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
that was
like, it really does give at least some power, however limited by their wealth, to the people to actually tangibly own part of a company or a GDP of a country. And so it is, in a lot of ways, very important. I think people owning stock and how free your country is could actually be very, very tied, because again, if you believe that democracies believe in the people and their freedom and, you know, a unified voice together, then what better way to do that also through economics than to allow shares? Granted, it's not perfect, obviously, as we've seen this past week, but it was a great idea. And then we figured out that they were sellouts because they were owned by the people that had all of the wealth. And they sided with them when it came to literally manipulating the stock market in real time. I mean, how is being able to only sell a stock not inherently manipulation?
Okay, yeah, that's so. Let's give a clearer overview of that. So this is the big story that everyone's been, you know, saw on social media, probably the Wall Street bets and GameStop versus the hedge funds or versus Wall Street or whatever the memes compressed version that you heard. You know, there was this crazy event that happened, but this was building up for basically a year. So
everything that happened a week or two ago was kind of about, it was like boiling over a little bit for a year, for the past year.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Even longer, depending on
like
how far you follow the money.
Like it was talked about on threads and stuff, like on the internet, and how
describe Wall Street bets, because you've kept up with Wall Street bets a lot more. I don't keep up with that. I keep up with the degenerate Bitcoiners.
A hive of
I'm just a degenerate. So
not that you yourself are a WSB Chad. But
I go there for the memes because they're pretty funny.
They are
and offensive, but funny. But really offensive.
It's the same thing nowadays.
You know,
it's got to be.
I like the ape memes now. You know, monkey strong together. That's funny.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah,
it's good. It's a good twist. You know, they were always just more about taking very risky, usually options plays most of the time. And it was just a lot of people who were like, you know, fuck it, I haven't got a lot to lose. Or they had some amount of capital and were just comfortable spending, you know, dropping 20K on something that is literally pixels and fairy dust, may never come back to you. That's gone. You know, like once that bet's made, it's gone. It's out of your account.
Yeah.
It's not coming back. You're done if it goes wrong. I mean, so I think it was very interesting to see it evolve from this smaller trading community into, no, we're going to buy like, you know, thousands of dollars of stock.
Yeah. evolved. Like they're basically mainstream now. There's like 8 million members, right, or something now.
Yeah, now I mean it used
But
to not
it used to be
that
like
at all.
probably
Not
half
used
a
to be that
million.
at all.
Yeah,
was
it was
the
insane.
average for a long time. And these are, I think it's interesting. You kind of touched on it. Like this is like a grouping of individuals. Like some of them have literally nothing. Like they literally work fast food jobs and they spent their $150 on a few GameStop options and they made like 10 grand. Like there's those people, and then there's people that are like swinging probably 6 figures, you know, some people $1 million,
Right.
but they're all mixed up in this Reddit. And I think there's a common thread between them, and that common thread isn't like the capital, how much capital they have, but it's kind of a distaste for the big Wall Street and big institutions, and a desire to kind of be an individual
It literally is just the embodiment.
and have your own autonomy.
Yeah, it's literally just the embodiment of the middle class. I mean, that's what it is.
yeah.
It's just the middle class banding together and investing in a very democratized fashion. And the wild part about all of this is, you know, they weren't doing anything that hedge funds don't do themselves, right? Saying that they're manipulating the market because they're giving out advice of plays. I mean, the only risk there, the only illegal thing is like you could get sued. But I mean, it takes a lot for the SEC to actually shut you down for giving out just basic information, right? That's not what happens. Like you have to be telling people, buy this, it'll go up and you will make millions, and being like very...
You have to be making like specific
claim.
promises, like invest in me and
Exactly.
my trading strategy will get you this amount. Like, or
And even then, I see people do that, and they obviously aren't getting caught by the SEC.
yeah. So,
I mean,
people get away with it.
yeah, it's not like this was anything new to the market. There's no new game as in terms of this play. Nothing that Wall Street Bets did was inherently revolutionary, other than they all did it together.
So they just played the game differently than it's been being played, and suddenly the people who were winning were like, wait, you can't do that. And they're like, wait, why not?
Yeah, it was also a accumulation of events. I mean, we talked about it briefly about the old guy that was saying this is what happens when you give someone a $600 stimulus check. That was part of it. You know, that was definitely had a play. It was very interesting to see what millions of Americans will do when they actually have any type of funds just given to them.
Yeah.
But the reality is a lot of these people, you know, it's not like that was just going into their bank account to be placed into the stock market. They were trying to pay bills.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So to say that it's purely because of a stimulus check, no, it's not. That's absurd. This was people who still probably likely had their jobs, you know, professionals, everyday people, like Austin was saying, you know, people that have 400,000 sitting in their bank account, and people that have 500.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Which is your boy.
Yeah. Which is your boy as well.
So yeah, it was a weird accumulation of events that really created a perfect storm. And it's funny to look at in retrospect. And I mean, they're still, I believe, saying that they still think that it's being shorted, which that's another thing, is it's not legal to short a stock for more stocks than exist, right?
Okay.
Like naked short selling is what that's called. That's not legal.
Really?
Yeah, that is.
So this is who was on the other side of the trade that you're referring to.
Yeah.
So Wall Street Bets was buying up GameStop's stock, and on the other side of the trade was these handful of hedge funds, dominantly a hedge fund called Melvin. And
Okay, wait.
Melvin.
Should we
So-
talk about what hedge funds are? Or should we do that after you?
No,
you're
no,
talking
that-
about what you're doing.
that's
or are
what-
you
that-
leading up to?
That's about dark pools and hedge funds. That's the.
Well, I was just gonna say a shorting, like what this hedge fund, these few hedge funds were doing. It's called shorting, and all that shorting means in the stock market is that through one method or another, when the stock price goes down, you make money.
Okay.
Right.
But how that works on the reverse side if let's say you begin your short trade at $100 because you think the price is going to go down to $90, but it goes up to $110, then for you to exit your trade, you have to buy.
Right.
Like normally, if you buy stock and you're like losing money, you're like, shit, I have to sell. If you're short, if you're losing that trade, you got to buy.
Okay.
So that's what allows this thing called a short squeeze, where if a bunch of people are short and they all lose out on their trades and they have to buy as well as the other people that are already buying.
The train keeps rolling.
Yeah, it's a squeeze. And so, okay, so that's just a basic on that. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah,
but
what
is a hedge fund, Josh? and I guess this is confusing. We've got Josh and Josh. So I'm just going to call you Joshua. Is that okay? Since you're the guest.
Well,
so.
You probably won't even say my name.
I'll allow it. This one.
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, what is a hedge fund?
They are the monsters in the night. They are just a group of people, usually people with a large sum of capital, that band together and they become brokers so that they can manage people's retirement accounts and, things like that, just in general.
So broker, that just means you can take people's money and buy stocks with it, buy equities, Yeah,
I mean, it's just an investment fund. So primarily there are some differences between hedge funds and like regular banks. Hedge funds a lot of times are trying to beat the market, whereas banks are more likely to just, in general, invest in something like the SP 500, and call it a day. They're okay with that.
They're going to be boring and they're going to spin money around in a slow washing machine.
Right.
And the hedge funds, they're trying to get an edge.
Right.
So they're trying to find an edge in the market and take advantage of it.
Right. So that's literally what you do whenever you have a bank account. It's the savings account. That's what that bank is doing, is they're just investing in a very, very safe, usually the VOO, which is Vanguard's SP 500, or they're investing in government bonds or things like that. Very safe investments that are just small, continual growth. They're not going anywhere long, but they're going somewhere.
That's called rehypothecation, where your funds that you think are sitting in your account are actually being invested at the benefit of the bank. And actually, if all of it's kind of correlated, like if all of the individuals who hold funds in the bank all pulled out their money at the same time,
right?
A bank run, the bank actually doesn't have enough money. So
right.
the bank doesn't have all the money, and that's part of why
liquidity.
they have to trade your money that's just sitting in your account.
Right. They don't have enough liquidity. That was the big problem. That's actually a very
liquidity,
easy way.
And you'll hear this word liquidity.
Yeah, you will hear
liquid and illiquid, and all that means is lots of money or less money.
Okay.
More money. It just means
we need more money. It's
cash
not liquid
on
enough.
hand. How much dough do you have that you can just throw into the internet abyss? So specifically, that's actually a really easy way to explain the 2008 financial crisis, where the banks lost their liquidity because, like Austin was talking about, a lot of people were very scared because the economy was tanking and they took out all their investments. So all of a sudden, these banks are like, oh, we have to cover these. People have bank accounts and they're trying to buy food. That's not good. So that's why there were some bailouts and things like that from the government, and some inflation occurred. It was because it was actually pretty bad. Yeah. There was not enough money.
It's the whole financial. Okay, this is something else I wanted to touch on. Just like why markets and finance is so complicated.
Oh yeah.
And I have a simple answer for this, but I wanted to hear what you thought. Like, obviously there's a lot of language, a lot of specific language and specific references and models, like any domain of interest. But really, why it's complicated is because we have abstracted from what is money and what is valuable so much to where you have an abstraction of an abstraction of an abstraction. And it's some complicated financial instrument or a derivative. And you've got money printing at the same time, and you've got markets for money that exist that aren't accessible to regular people. And so it's become this complicated apparatus where it's really just a bunch of human abstractions on true value that honestly, when you look at it in hindsight, it's just like people did this for their own short-term advantage. And now we've got this weird hunk of a financial system that's so strange. Anyway, that's my answer. It wasn't that short.
Yeah. I think a lot of the reason that you see people get so confused when you talk about anything with the stock market is just like you were talking about the slang. That's a lot of it is you throw out stuff like VOO, and that's just literally the name that someone arbitrarily gave this specific slew of investments. You know, this slot of tickers, like that's another one. Tickers. What's a ticker? It's literally just the name, the 4-letter little digits that they give a stock.
Okay.
So Microsoft is MSFT for Microsoft.
And that's a ticker?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be like a $sign, and then you see MSFT. That's how you find Microsoft. So it's really a lot more simple than it seems, but because we've added so much nomenclature that's outside of the realm of regular conversation, everybody just gets really, really confused, and rightfully so. You know, I think that happens in a lot of places, business, politics, whatever you're talking about. You can really lose a lot of people's attentions just because of how you're saying things without the ability to explain them to people who aren't in this, who are laymen, you know. Yeah. That's one of the, I think that's an Einstein quote.
Really?
Where he said that intelligence can be measured by how well you can communicate what you're saying. And I'm very much paraphrasing, but it's just the idea that if you can actually teach people, then you probably know this pretty well.
Well, it's also simplicity. You know, if you can say things in simple, straightforward words, you're just proving that you've polished down all the ideas to just the necessary ingredients to communicate the message.
So multiple people can process it because everyone processes it differently.
That was actually something I literally had to do, was learn how to write a policy memo. When in my degree, it was literally, you have 2 pages, make it good.
Oh wow.
Because this is exactly what happens whenever it goes to a senator or a representative in the House. I mean, they have a little memo of like 2 pages. Give me your highlights. 'Cause I got shit to do today. So you don't get much time. And I think it's kind of the same thing of just condense this because these people are busy. They have a lot of stuff to do. And I think that's everybody. Right? That's not just important people.
Yeah, definitely.
People have a lot of shit going on.
Yeah,
like if you're like a single mom trying to learn how to invest, that's going to be a difficult road.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I think that's a lot of what keeps people out. And that's why, like we were talking about, Robinhood was such a good thing because it simplified. It did exactly what we're talking about in their terms of their UI. Their GUI was great for people entering because they didn't, you know, whenever you open like Fidelity or Schwab or any of these other names that you could list, Webull's a little bit better.
These exchanges where you buy
these
stonks.
Yes, these brokers that allow you to purchase stocks through them. I mean, their GUI is just ancient.
Yeah,
I mean,
it looks like an Excel spreadsheet mixed up.
It literally
with,
does.
Craigslist from 2004.
Right.
It's like a fucking mess.
I feel like it's a blast of the past, but it's just they need to update that, and that's primarily what got so many people into Robinhood is because, you know, if you're trying to get someone like a family member into stocks and they ask you, "Hey, how do I do this?" The answer is, I'm gonna need to come over.
Right. Yeah. And things like Robinhood and maybe even Cash App, they kind of get rid of that, like get rid of, like, they make it more user friendly.
Yeah,
right?
I think Cash App's really great. Actually, that's probably a great alternative that I would recommend.
That's what I've used or dabbled in. If I've dabbled with a few stocks, like just kind of not really being serious about it, but because it is a lot to get into, and like, what does the term bullish mean or something? You know, like things like that. Like, like you can bypass some of it with Cash App.
Totally. And Cash App, they have great like even like descriptions and little like things you can read through, like about stocks and Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And Cash App is I recommend them to people now. Like, if anything, to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
for sure.
And honestly, to buy stock, it's like they've made it the easiest, and they've really been a very trusted company.
Right.
And they have a good business model, unlike Robinhood's, which we could talk about. But, you know, and so Cash App is the way to go, in my opinion. But
I would argue I use it more than my bank sometimes, honestly. Mm-hmm. Just because it's become so convenient.
I mean, you can get a card, so it effectively is.
Got that. Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's even Fidelity does that, actually. I just opened an account because I'm going to transfer my Robinhood whenever I can. Mm-hmm. They have the ability to just have a card.
Cool.
It's kind of cool because it means like I can just keep my money in stocks and then just transfer it to another account. And it's easy. Like, that's wild. I mean, it'll take some time to transfer still, but it's still wild. It's just a lot easier than it has been in the past. Yeah.
You know, people want to, and more now this is like accessible to everyone, at least everyone that has a smartphone and, you know, basic banking capabilities. Like, you can now get out of cash into something else, which when you're a kid, like when I was a kid, I remember thinking like, wow, one day, like, I'll grow up and like maybe I'll have enough money one day to make an investment. And actually it's like how money managers handle money is, it's like, no, you're only 2% in cash, and you're 6% in this, and 18% in gold, and 20% in bonds, and like you're like, you don't want to be holding your money in money. You want to be holding your money in a basket of a bunch of different confusing things, which adds to why it's complicated. And you know, this is why the the simplicity at which Wall Street bets and their memes kind of just
buy stonk, go up,
yeah,
printer go burr,
number go up. And you know, these are memes that are in Bitcoin too, where you can just condense the truth down, like number go up. There you go.
Yeah. Simple.
Yeah.
Look at the graph; it can only go up, man. Don't do that. That's not how that works.
Okay, so we talked about shorting. We talked about Wall Street bets. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about hedge funds, right?
Not a lot. I was about to add that the whole point of a hedge fund versus a bank is that, unlike the conservative portfolio, another fun term, you know, your account and all the different stocks you're invested in, is that they're a lot more risky. The point of a hedge fund is to specifically beat the market. Right, beat the smaller turtle people. They're the hare to the turtle.
Oh, okay.
That's the entire point of a hedge fund.
So they have more of like a
aggressive.
I think you were saying like leverage on the whole situation a little bit.
Well, banks probably have more leverage. It's just they can't afford to risk that.
Or they have more leverage on the turtle people. Is that how that
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, they have more ability to say this is going to be a risky portfolio, right? And that's not always like that. They do retirement accounts too, but some people want to have more risky retirement accounts. I don't know if you know what Acorns is, but it's another brokerage, and it just allows you to like easily invest like $5 off of like any purchase type of thing.
Okay.
So it adds up. And their whole thing is that they let you pick different types of investment strategies, being more conservative, moderate, or aggressive.
Okay.
And the only difference is what types of stock are being invested in. Something like a Fortune 500 company, which is just, you know, the country's top 500 companies. Well, yeah, that's going to be pretty solid. Like Microsoft's not going anywhere. Google's not going anywhere. Right. You don't have to worry about that. Hedge funds, they do that. But they also usually throw a little bit more of the new upstarts. You know, the volatility that could be either really good or really bad.
They also throw in dirty tactics. And, and they also are mostly exclusive to the elite. Like you have to be an accredited investor, right, to invest in a hedge fund, or at least hedge funds have like lower thresholds of how much money you need to have. Like if you've ever heard the term accredited investor, that just means you have $1 million. What is it? You just have to like register that you have $1 million
You just have a lot
in equity, like what?
Yeah,
capital? I don't know.
I mean, that's definitely part of it.
But these are the like hedge funds are these aggressive investing strategies for the rich, for the elite, almost exclusively.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like a lot of these hedge funds, they're not even like Bridgewater, one of the biggest in the world. Their doors aren't even open for new customers. They don't take new customers. They have just a bunch of wealthy people, and they are a bunch of wealthy people, and they just
hand it down to more wealthy people.
No, they just apply aggressive
it's
strategy in the markets to take advantage of opportunities to just like
It's the 21st century version of the aristocracy fighting each other for like small towns, but never actually leaving their castle.
Okay.
Yes.
It's the same thing. Like
there's like some shitty town. They're like, oh, we hit this like 5 years ago, so we can probably hit it again. Let's just go raid it. We'll send one squad out.
It's fine. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Some of you may die, but that is a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah, right. So the hedge fund people were pissed about what happened a week or two ago then, right?
Oh, yeah.
They were more than pissed.
They were.
So essentially, yeah, that's what I was trying to ask is, so they're mad. They're upset.
Yeah.
They're pretty peeved. Because mostly, I mean, for the longest time, a lot of these people, having met a few actual brokers, like had a few customers that were stockbrokers, a lot of times their whole thing is like, even not every single one is like a bad person. I don't want to say that, but it is a lot of times more like, oh, those young whippersnapper millennials, you know, they don't know what they're talking about, and just this very aggressive.
That's the attitude you'd get from them.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree of like, just exactly the quote that gentleman said about, this is what happens whenever you give a lot of people $600 and this is illegal, it's foreign manipulation, all of these things, like
you name it.
Yeah, it's just disparaging their character because they're young, and it's the next generation investing, because that's really what it is. It's not about it being anything other than a lot of people finally figured out how to do this, and because of that, because of that freedom of information, now you have that upsetting the balance. You know, the score has changed and the tide has turned on them. I mean, now they have to worry, oh shit, we can't short a stock to 140% of its available stock. It's a different game. They can't get away with that as much as easily. Because I mean, it's happened before too. Volkswagen was a big example of this.
Yeah, I actually heard about that today.
I believe that was in the 90s, 80s. 90s.
Yeah,
so they
like
were pretty
randomly
low, and then they kind of swing upward.
Yeah, randomly they became like the most valuable company in the world.
Yeah,
because of a short squeeze. Because a bunch of people were short and they were losing on their positions, and a bunch of people were buying at the same time, and it just drove it up. So it was almost like, once again, an abstraction. It's an abstraction from the value of the company, and you've got a bunch of people participating in speculation on that value, just like expressing their feelings in the form of money.
But in the same vein, I mean, they're complaining so much about them calling them on the short selling, and that it was just people manipulating the market. That's just buying and selling stock. There's no manipulation going on there. Right. I mean, would you call manipulating the market what happened with Tesla? I mean, that was primarily younger investors simply investing in something that they saw as a tangible benefit to their society, a tangible company that was doing something that they wanted and giving them a product back too. I mean, a lot of people were interested in Tesla because of both the renewable side of it, and also it was a lot better. Like, the technology was superior.
And people are just inspired.
And it's innovative too. So
exactly,
it can only go up.
They're so tired of seeing, you know, a Buick or whatever, a Chrysler, just old wagon type of mom's car. Like, there's been no innovation because it's been so stagnant, because only 6 or 7 companies, which are probably owned by 1 or 2 companies when you actually go down the lines of succession in terms of who owns it, it was just getting boring. And this was something new. And even if you put it as simply as that, it was something new, and people wanted that. And it went insane. I mean, it split once, right?
Yeah.
Is this the second? No, it's only once.
The split is where they like double. They basically like they double the supply and they give you double or something like that.
Okay.
So like you have the same amount of value, but there's just more units.
It's like
Okay.
It's like instead of having one $10 bill, you have 2 5s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you can do more with it because it's two separate.
Yeah, it's more fungible.
You can also do the reverse of that too, which is called a reverse split. So you have, it's exactly what you're doing whenever you exchange money, like I just said. So you had 2 5s, and you were like, hey, I need a 10, and then that's what you get. So,
so a reverse split is just getting the 10 back. Okay.
So like a reverse split happened in the stock that I'm invested in. I had 16,000 shares, and then whenever the 5-to-1 split happened, I had like 3,000 something.
Okay.
Around there.
Okay.
So but I had the same exact dollar value still in the stock.
Okay.
Yeah, and they did this with Tesla because the dollar value of the single stock was so
too high.
damn high.
Nobody could buy. It was
and they were like,
outpricing.
"Hey, we'll just cut it. We'll just do a reverse split." And it's almost this sneaky way to like the unit price. You look smaller, so it looks cheaper, but actually it's not cheaper. Mm-hmm. You're getting the same amount of the percentage of Tesla that you're getting before. And it's just like half the price or whatever, but
okay.
There's a very important thing I think for people to remember whenever you're investing is I saw this on like a mocking post on Reddit about thinking that more shares always equals more money versus the dollar amount that you put in. Right? What's 20% remains the same regardless.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like that's not how the math works. If you made 20%, then you made 20%. That's it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people like they want to get involved in penny stocks, for instance, which is just stocks that are under $1. And so they're a lot more volatile, a lot less regulated usually, just because they're very small companies, kind of mom and pop of the stock market. Right. And, that you saw that in Wolf of Wall Street. Oh, he was talking about pink slips.
Oh yeah, because that's what he was selling to people.
Yeah, but he was specifically selling
penny stocks and with like big promises, like talking up the companies, like they're about to have this big deal going on, and
you want to be a part of it, so you better.
They're gonna have a parabolic upswing. You're gonna make thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and they almost started this like legalized Ponzi scheme.
Yep.
That was like
because
in the
they
markets,
make commission.
it was legal
because they made commission anytime they got someone to buy. So
Gotcha.
they make a commission on that, get that percentage back. Yeah, it was bad,
disgusting.
And
which brings us right back to the hedge funds.
Yeah. Example A. Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay.
Hedge fund.
That was a hedge fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So if you want to know what a hedge fund is, if you keep seeing that on social media, go watch Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, that'll be your average example. Your run-of-the-mill hedge fund.
Specifically, make sure you pay close attention to Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. Yes.
But okay, so what we've got. Okay, so we're touching on basically everything. Melvin Capital, this hedge fund.
Oh, Melvin.
They were short.
What a name.
Melvin.
I know. It's perfect. You couldn't make it up. Melvin was short. Melvin and other hedge funds.
That sentence is real. Sorry, I don't mean to keep.
Melvin was so
Melvin
short.
was short.
Poor Melvin.
It was a mistake that Melvin was short.
It was.
Is this a children's book? That's what it sounds like.
One day it will be.
I want to see Samuel L. Jackson make a children's book about the GME stonks go. Melvin was really motherfucking short.
That's a good idea. I'd buy that. Anyway, so Melvin and these other hedge funds, they were short 140% of the actual stocks that existed. So that means if there was 100,000 stocks that existed, they were short 140,000 of the stocks.
They didn't exist.
Yeah, they didn't exist. And so this is where we kind of return to that weird idea of like the bank. You put your money in the bank, you see the number there, but really there's not enough money to serve everyone, and the money's actually just spinning around inside of a machine.
Like I said, Matthew McConaughey, it's all pixels and fairy dust, man.
Yeah, yeah. And so that was the setup. Is you've got this incredible. Okay, and this strategy that Melvin was incorporating is the strategy that hedge funds sometimes do that doesn't get named, where they pick companies,
exactly,
weak companies, just like predators in the wild, and they decide to pounce on them and literally crush, just like take the gravity of a bunch of borrowed money and leverage and capital and just crush companies that
I believe that's why
they just have decided are expired.
That's partially why I think Toys R Us went out of business.
Really?
I'm not misremembering. I know some major company.
They took Toys R Us out, man.
Yeah, I know some major company like that. It was because, I mean, yeah, they had a bad, failing business model, right?
Yeah.
But what really got them was their stock whenever they got shorted to oblivion. I mean, it doesn't really help whenever the company
at a certain
also.
point, if you get shorted down and you like are 99% down of what your company was worth, you're just like, okay, we're liquidating everything.
We're done.
Yeah, that's
Fuck it.
Man, I miss Toys R Us, man.
So they were. Melvin was set up to incorporate. Melvin was going to crush GameStop. Like that was their plan.
The hell?
And there was a few other targets. AMC was in there.
They took our toys, then they took our toys.
What else? AMC and Nokia?
Yeah, and BlackBerry. And,
BlackBerry.
There's like one other. I don't remember.
So
Just think of those companies, like those 4 companies. It's interesting. They're like.
So those are the 4 that were in the debacle a couple weeks ago, or was it just GameStop?
Really. Those
and
were
AMC?
all.
They were correlated.
Okay.
GameStop was really
but
the
Nokia
main
and
one.
BlackBerry, like years ago.
It was more the idea that Wall Street Bets kind of collectively, through a couple of prominent people, going like, "Hey, what if we just started, buying short stocks?" Which isn't like this revolutionary idea, but it's just like
a new way
once you get enough people, once you have a community this big, you just go, "Hey guys, I got a plan." Right. And that's not that's illegal, because it's not. You don't. It's not a pump and dump, right? That's a term that's used a lot. Of like, you're like, hey, we gotta buy this stock because it's gonna, we're gonna make it artificially go up because of supply and demand, right? By buying it, and then we're gonna sell it at the top, right? That's not what's happening. You're literally saying, hey, we like this company, we like the idea of GameStop, and we observe a technical problem in terms of shorts being oversold. So this is a win-win. Technically, and technical means, you explain technical, since you're the technical guy. I'm more the fundamental guy.
Well, I mean, these are just models and basic frameworks for what, considering something overbought or oversold. And if you have so many of these different metrics of measuring sentiment and price action and volume in the markets, you can have a bunch of signals that are all telling you the same thing, and you're like, okay, this seems like a pretty good bet. And then also, if there's good news, like good real fundamental news about the company or something like that, like that's
so it could still be considered fundamental, knowing that there's 140% short sell. That could be considered fundamental, I believe. But really, usually when you're talking about fundamentals, you're more like, hey, I think this is a good company model. I like a GameStop. They're selling a lot of games. They're going to be selling the new consoles. They're going to make a lot of money. I believe in this company. That's usually what you mean by fundamental analysis.
Yeah. Okay. And this is, so this actually takes us back now to where you could start it further back, but where this kind of begins, which is in like June of 2019, where you've got Deep fucking value, user on Wall Street Bets that basically just starts posting some just really good kind of fundamental analysis of GameStop, saying that, like the new console generation is coming around and kind of some of the stuff you just said.
The funniest thing about this is that a year ago, I was shorting GameStop.
Really?
Yeah.
Bastard.
I made money on that. Like, it wasn't a lot. I think it was like $40.
Yeah.
But I was technically shorting GameStop because I didn't believe in the fundamental business model. I was like, this is bullshit. It's brick and mortar. It's going away.
Hey, but at least you didn't borrow money to do it.
No, not at all. I didn't.
Yeah.
It was my own money. It was not on a loan or what they call margin. It's just basically a loan to buy or sell stock from a brokerage.
So GameStop is stoked now, right?
Oh yeah.
Like they're.
I mean, yes and no. They're probably like every day they come into the office. They're like, so what the fuck's gonna happen today, guys?
But it's got to be pretty chaotic. But
yeah.
I mean, they were like when you're watching the nature documentary and that little like the weakest in the pack is about to get mauled and then like barely gets away. And you're like, oh, that's so nice, like, and they're just like running away. Like that's how GameStop is.
They're just scared shit.
They were in the crosshairs,
yeah,
for sure.
Definitely.
And to answer your question earlier, like it was dominantly GameStop, but it was Nokia and BlackBerry and AMC at the same time. And that's why Wall Street Bets, like they've been like those names have kind of been floating around as well because they were also targets, but GameStop was the blaring one because that's where they had borrowed so much. 140% of the stock was short it.
Okay.
And so, yeah, deep fucking value in June of 2019 it starts posting about, just fundamental analysis about GameStop, thinking that like, it's a good solid investment for the short term. And later, like 2 months later, what's his name? This is one of the main characters in another stock market movie, The Big Short.
God damn. I know who you're talking
it's the
about.
kid in The Big Short. He's played by.
Google this.
yeah, go for it.
Now I'm forgetting the actor
I have
as well.
to remember because I should know that.
I still have yet to see both Wolf of Wall Street and The Big Short.
Oh,
I
who's
need to
Batman?
watch both of them. There's a lot of Batmans.
Yeah, I know, man. The newest Batman. Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Christian Bale. That's
what? Michael Burry.
Michael Burry.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Christian
he's this
Bale
character.
plays Michael Burry in The Big Short.
In The Big Short.
Gotcha. These are the important things.
Yeah, The Big Short's actually a good movie to watch. It goes over the financial crisis in 2008.
Okay.
And it does a really good job of kind of explaining it and telling the story of it, which is incredibly disgusting if you don't know it. Like, it's a terrible thing that happened. And so Michael Burry, he was this character in The Big Short, the movie, where he shorted, he shorted the mortgage bonds that ended up blowing up. Basically, he recognized that financial manipulation was happening, and he took a very strong financial position on it, lost most of his customers doing that, and like held it for a long time, and then made hundreds of millions, if not billions, like once the financial crisis happened. And he was one of the key figures that kind of exposed the manipulation that was happening that ended up almost collapsing the whole entire financial market. Yeah.
Wow.
And so you got June, Deep Fucking Value, puts out this analysis. Michael Burry, 2 months later or something, he reveals that he has like 10% or like kind of or 5 or 6% or some portion of his fund like in GameStop, which is like a pretty big amount for a single stock. And he kind of gives a similar analysis. And so it starts off and there's just this general fundamental positive sentiment about GameStop. It doesn't have anything to do with hedge funds. But I'm not sure. Do you know how did Wall Street Bets begin to uncover like Melvin Capital's position in this?
I mean, there's open like websites that give out the knowledge of how many shorts are sold short.
Oh, so people just started paying attention.
They just literally started paying attention. I mean, the efficacy of that data is sometimes in question. You can't know exactly.
Like it might be manipulated.
Right.
Well, yeah, or it might be like this is actually 10% lower. So if you're talking about 100 versus 90, that would make a difference. But it's there. Like you can find it. So it's not like it's secret necessarily. So, I mean, people just started paying attention. They saw a trend. They were like, hey, this is a prime target type of thing. And that's the thing is like, is it manipulation to end another manipulation? Right?
Yeah.
Like, if it was already illegal to naked short this, because again, that's whenever you go over 100%, whenever you don't have the shares to buy back, because that's illegal. You literally, sold something that didn't exist.
Yeah.
That's fraud. But it's weird. Just, man, the whole idea that we would think that it's just not okay for people to buy a stock because they see something like that, because they notice a trend.
Yeah.
That's what these hedge fund managers are doing. Like we just talked about for, a long time.
And you're really referring to the media sentiment about Wall Street Bets.
Oh my God.
And how
like demonizing them?
Literally called them Nazis.
Wow.
Yeah, white supremacists.
And like
that was
alt-right
their thing.
stock traders, like
which like I
like,
kind of get. I understand how they got that spin.
There's a lot of degeneracy and
memes.
It's
There's a
Reddit,
lot of
right?
degeneracy.
Yeah.
But you can't overgeneralize like what's now 8 million or 6 million whatever people.
Yeah,
in that
that's the
forum.
thing is like half of the people in there. Yeah, they throw the R word around a lot. That's literally their thing. Is like everybody's retarded, guys, type of thing, and it's not a wholesome environment. However, that was back when it was however many million versus now, where it's ballooned to 800 times that. Like, it's not comparable. You can't just say that everybody involved in buying a stock is a Nazi or a white supremacist. It's absurd.
2020 is the year that, now it's 2021, but
Dude, I've caught myself.
Blanket statements.
Yeah,
it seems to be the trend.
Blanket statements that usually aren't even in context at all and don't make any sense.
Or they've just heard other people saying it.
I've seen so many people like, because that's the whole thing is like specifically Nazis. They're the Nazi Socialist Party. I've seen so many people being like, that's why we don't want socialism. It's like, okay, everybody knows that was a lie. It's kind of like how China is, quote unquote communist when no, they just, the authoritarian government that now he can't be put out of power, right? He has no term limit, I believe. Yeah. I mean, he owns all of the corporations. That's not exactly the same. That's more like a king.
Yeah, isn't it kind of like aren't like the U.S. and China and like Russia, aren't they all just kind of like oligarchies at this point? Kind of. Am I guessing correctly, or
they're printing more money and buying more ownership with that money. So yes, like increasingly, like the U.S. government holds a huge portion of the U.S. economy on its own balance sheet. And the same with China. Of course, it's much more drastic. China has authoritarian control over a capitalist society that they call it, just like a capitalist type of society where they get to participate in the global markets, but they still have controls that aren't, very freeing. And like America is like more like heavily, it's like it owns a lot of capital, heavily regulated, and has a lot of shady deals to where people take money, but also it's such a big economy that people are also making money at the same time, and new businesses are being built. And so there's they have enough water to play in to where they can slip that liquidity in their pocket, basically.
Right. It's the concept of good debt. That's why you might have heard Biden say it was really hypocritical of Republicans to start suddenly complaining about the deficit. That's what he was referring to is, well, one, the deficit was going up under Republicans as well. But two, deficit, just because you have debt doesn't mean it's always bad. Right? Yeah. That's what hundreds of college students...
I disagree. But that's beyond the scope of this conversation.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a big just general market thing of should we have done that because it's already here,
No, yeah, I mean you have debt now, you have to take out debt. That's the game we're in. So yeah,
right, it's already.
I admit that. Yeah, I just don't think it's a good thing.
Come gone. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would prefer it's not that way, but in this economy, I mean, that's the whole thing. If you have enough GDP, if you're making enough money, if you're bringing enough in, and that's consistent, and you know it's consistent, then yeah, you're going to over leverage. And that's why Austin doesn't like it, is because you're saying, yeah, I don't have that, but I'm gonna buy it anyway. Yeah. I'll get you back. And then the entire world is now doing that.
But the type of leverage like that Melvin was using is not accessible to us. Like, there is times and contexts when it has been actually in like 1999.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the big thing about Robinhood, is that's why they got so annoyed, is because Robinhood also has a lot of people on margin.
That's true. So
there was more leverage than ever before, because there was a $600 check. There was a broker that was finally willing to lend pretty much fucking anyone margin, like anyone.
And margin just means like borrowed money you get to trade with.
Yeah, like we talked about. It's like a loan.
Okay.
And that was a big thing. Like, you've seen probably stories about Robinhood. Like, there was that kid that committed suicide because what he did, not to get too in deep in options, but he bought a spread, which is you're both betting that something will go down and that it will go up. And to explain it simply, the part that he was betting, hey, I don't think the stock is going to go up. Well, that executed and showed in his account as negative because the stock went up. And the other leg is what they call it. Hadn't yet, because it just usually doesn't until a few trading days later. So basically, this kid wakes up. He has no money. Not really. It's all margined. It's all leveraged, right? Or maybe it wasn't in his case. He might have just bought. Anyway, regardless, he wakes up and he sees negative $100,000 in his account. And he's like, well, I guess I'll kill myself. And he does. The irony is that he was actually in the positive, because once the other leg executed, he had actually made money.
Damn.
And so, like, that's why it is both really cool that Robinhood and other brokers started to allow this more, like I said, democratization of finance, being able to invest, and like even margin, because you can make decent money using margin as long as you don't over leverage yourself, as long as you don't go into debt that you can't afford.
Right.
Like, if you make $500 whenever, like if you buy $500 of stock and then you double that to 1,000, but the 500 that you put in wasn't yours, but you just made free money, basically.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
But on the other side,
if you lose that money,
if you lose that, then most people can't afford a $400 expense in America.
Right.
We all know that statistic.
It's called getting margin called.
Exactly. That's when you get your margin called and the bank comes and knocking.
Okay.
So, and that's why I think
and this
you have more leverage than ever before.
This is the threat that Melvin Capital was in. The entire motherfucking hedge fund, which has what, 6 or 7 billion in assets under management, the whole hedge fund almost got margin called on their position, on all their short positions, which was more than the value of the Gamestop company.
And like we talked about, these are likely made up of people's like retirements and stuff like that, like
rich people's.
You know, rich people's most likely in the case of this one, because it's a larger one, right? So, you know, some of those people didn't deserve it. Right, they might have been halfway decent people that just happened to have a family member even. You know, someone's college fund could have been in there, right? It could have. Yeah. So on one hand, it's sad, but on the other, it's because these slime balls were risking people's money, like I talked about, on naked shorts that are illegal.
Yeah.
So who's really at fault here? It's the same thing that happened with Jordan Belfort. I mean, it's the same concept. It's some guy is using other people's money in a way that is very immoral and very risky, and then he gets caught with his pants down. And for some reason, all of the news was in on it, and like, you know, that's okay. It's the investors that are just trying to buy a stock that are the problem here, not the guy that, you know, was risking people's lives.
See, and that's where this gets
without their consent.
That's where this gets so fucked up, because okay, you got Melvin Capital on their heels, about to be totally liquidated, and this was like on Wednesday. GameStop is at like, you know, $400 at this point now, up from $14, and all of this momentum had been building up in Wall Street Bets, And the sentiment went from, like, early on, you had just, like, fundamental analysis, like, yeah, this is a good, you know, like, company in the short term, to now the Wall Street Bets had grown, like, 4 times. And the sentiment was, we're going to destroy Wall Street, like, fuck Melvin, like, destroy Melvin, like, we're gonna do the biggest short squeeze in history. And they think they did. And then on Thursday, on this day, it was the most important day. Like, Melvin totally would have been.
I mean, they did lose billions.
They lost billions. Yeah,
they had to get a loan, like, from a buddy.
Wow.
Yeah. But they would have been totally demolished. And on that day, everyone woke up, and on Robinhood dominantly,
They fucking hodled. That's what they did.
they did. They did. But
They
on
had diamond
Robinhood,
hands.
you could not buy. You could only sell.
Wow.
So that's like such a like, you should have shut down the game instead of only turning off buying, because that's the only way price goes up.
Yeah.
And so that's literally like,
Well, that's what
ironic.
that's what a trading halt is. That's when you just pause the game, guys. We got some shit to sort out.
But they
this got
didn't.
crazy.
they shut down. They literally
Exactly.
like, they're like, oh, your queen is too powerful. We're just gonna take her out of the game.
You
Like,
know what?
literally.
We're gonna cheat. No, I mean,
Yeah.
like,
change
what
the game
hell?
like in the 4th quarter.
What
That's
an
they
ironic
did.
name for an app.
Andy.
Robin
I
Hood.
know.
That's been
No.
that's been the whole thing. Yeah.
And yeah, and like, it's clear that there was pressure on Robinhood,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and there's speculation as to what that pressure was. But
I mean,
like,
yeah, it's not even speculation at this point. We know Citadel Holdings, right? It's Holdings.
Yeah.
Right? Citadel Holdings was a major customer of Robinhood's. They were who did a lot of trades with them, type of thing.
it not just well, here, let me say this. Robinhood's business model, how they are able to offer a service where they give users who just sign up on a whim the ability to buy and trade stocks for free. Their business model is that they export their data to hedge funds.
Yeah.
And hedge funds
so you
use
know how-
that data
yeah.
to then trade in front of your trades so that they can make micro percents with computer
Exactly.
algorithms. So that is
it's
literally
literally-
Robinhood's business model. I shit you not.
Yeah, no, it
and
is.
Citadel's their biggest customer, and Citadel loaned
There's
money to Melvin.
there is a data model of me out there and my investing portfolio that someone has on a server somewhere. That's the
Yeah.
whole point.
Wow.
And I mean, it's people talk about metadata, and we're finally starting to get there with society where everybody kind of realizes, oh, this is why privacy is important, right?
Yeah.
Because you start, getting advertisements for McDonald's whenever I say it on stream, like right now.
Right.
So, like, obviously, metadata is incredibly important, and when you apply that same concept to stocks, to making money in terms of literally the financial markets, oh my God, that's a multi-billion-dollar venture. I mean, that's invaluable data. That's why they can make an entire business model off of this.
Yeah.
I mean, just like with this, they're going to have metadata on all of the people that entered the market for GameStop, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
It's a weird feeling, I bet. Like, on the people who have been doing that. Like, to think about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like measuring your behavior in a certain type of way that, I don't know, a lot of other companies, like Facebook, can't do that. They can't track your trades. Or like
because
your
it's
financial
literally your
decisions.
livelihood.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't just, what I like to buy in terms of bath towel. This is how do you spend literally everything you work for every day? Every inch of savings, every speck of everything you've worked for your entire life. How do you want to spend that? That is absolutely invaluable information for a hedge fund.
Yeah. And okay, so what I've heard is that Citadel, the biggest customer of Robinhood, was actually loaning some of the money to Melvin Capital to short GameStop. Is that what you've heard? Like, maybe that's just conspiracy zone.
It might be.
But I know that like Citadel and Melvin are involved. But what I heard is that
Melvin.
fucking Melvin, dude. What I heard is that you've got Citadel that's like in the bed with Robinhood
little
and
bastard.
in the bed with Melvin. and they're all in the bed together. You know, Melvin's in the middle, and and it's just like that because all we have now is just speculation. I mean, you know, Robinhood hasn't said officially that, like, yeah, we were forced to do it by powerful people in the financial world. Like, they wouldn't say that, but like that's what we're all left thinking, because they literally changed the rules of the game in the middle of the game. They broke the game. They stole the dream from the middle class, literally. And then the next day, the media went and called Wall Street Bets and all those people Nazis.
They were
said that they were manipulating the markets themselves.
There was this one
That's
guy.
the richest part.
He had like a whack ass name. It was something rather crude. I loved it, but it's like PME your titties or something like that. It was pretty funny. I got reported in a
Reddit.
Newspaper, right?
I thought you were talking about a news anchor.
Oh yeah, no. On like Reddit, this guy has a username.
So they
had
to use the username.
Yeah.
Like
this is an actual fucking news story.
Imagine the anchor that has
Just fucking,
from the user PM titties. XYZ. Go ahead.
they accused him of buying everything on margin and risking thousands based on his post history on Reddit. And it was like, I never said that. He literally came out, he made a thread about it and was like, hey, so this is what I think it was NBC News just said about me. Jeez. I have not bought anything on margin. I own this cash account. The fuck? You need to redact that. That's a lie. Like, that's literally, unfortunately, in this case, fake news. Actually. And I mean, it's so frustrating, especially in an era of everybody claiming everything is fake news unwarrantedly.
Yeah.
Well, now you've just proven to a lot of people that, you're manipulating this. And in a big way. I mean, again, we're talking about people's retirements and all of this. Like, this isn't some intangible, thing. This is money that was people's livelihoods, like we just talked about. Their hopes, their dreams, This is a big deal. So just the audacity to tell basically a large segment of the middle class, go fuck yourself.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, long and short of it, from everything we've talked about, they just didn't care. There's different rules for different people, and you're not one of them.
Yeah.
You're not one of the elites, hedge fund people that gets to get out and have a bailout whenever they make a bad play, right? If you go on Robinhood like that kid, you make a bad play, you want to commit suicide. To them, doesn't matter.
Right.
Someone bails them out.
Yeah.
Nothing happens. There's no consequences.
I wonder where this is all going to go, like, in the next couple months after this type of thing happening.
So immediately, politically at least, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and a couple others of the Progressive Caucus, and also just in general, I mean, people started being like, this is exactly what we were talking about. Elizabeth Warren jumped on that immediately and was like, nah, this is wrong. There's going to be an investigation and all that. And whether or not that goes anywhere, you have people starting to notice, like, Wall Street Bets is in an official document of Congress. That's a big deal.
And this random person, Deep Fucking Value, well, they started their first post. What they did, they bought, $50,000 for a contract that expires.
He did long calls, I believe. He did like super absurd, like, no way in hell this is going to ever work out, man. Long calls. And then it did it.
Yeah.
Because he knew that it was going to be a short sell, probably. I haven't actually read his original stuff.
Yeah, so there's conspiracies that he's like a super genius or something, and like saw that, saw early that it was possible this would be the biggest short squeeze. But he puts down $50,000 with just a very fundamental average take on the value of the company. $50,000 on basically a leveraged option at a really high strike price, like a ridiculous strike price that no one would think would go. And he just posted weekly updates.
So just to understand
of his position.
Just to understand, a call is what we're talking about. It's a call option. They're pretty simple, so for the sake of this, we can explain it. But basically, it's just a bet that you think that the stock price is going to hit this number. And so what you get to do is you get to buy a contract. A contract is 100 shares. So you're saying, I bet this amount of money that I want to buy this many contracts. So like, for instance, if you're buying a contract, it's usually at least $5. So if you're buying 500, it's like $500, right?
Yeah.
So, that's not an insignificant amount of money.
Yeah.
And it gets exponentially longer. Like if you had higher share prices and stuff like that, the options can cost a lot more. So $50,000 is, something like that can happen quite easily. But if you make that bet, then you effectively get to own all those shares that you paid almost nothing for.
Yeah. Dang.
And that's how you make the money. Okay. So it's very simple, honestly. Like it gets a lot more complicated than that. And it's a super layman's way of explaining it.
Yeah.
But it's not too hard. You're making a bet. You're gambling.
Yeah.
So are there people though that manipulate that as well? Like they kind of have is that that's not what inside trading is, right? No, that's something else.
Insider trading could be all of this, whether it's an option or just regular stock. Okay. Insider trading is when someone inside of a company, corporation, or government entity tells someone privileged information that they shouldn't know.
They leak it to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what happens. So that's actually what the Republican representative in Georgia, Loeffler, who lost her Senate bid. That's what happened whenever she saw coronavirus documents that were documenting how bad it was, and then immediately sold out because her husband's the head of the NYSE, which is a major stock exchange. Most people probably know of the NYSE. It's literally Wall Street.
Okay.
So basically, she saw this in a Senate report, which most people don't have information to, and then immediately sold her stock and didn't get in any trouble for it. And everybody's like, it's a free market.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's, like I was talking about earlier, with just like the financial market is this apparatus that's been duct taped together over time as, hedge fund is just the financialization of the world has happened.
It's just the aristocracy. It's
just like the claiming of things and then the abstracting them and like splitting them up and selling them and utilizing them from different ways in the market. Like, and it's such a crazy point now. Like prices of everything are so high. There's so much money and and most of the money that exists, most of the value in the world exists in these derivatives or just like abstract financial products, which I guess options are derivatives, right? Yeah. Which options are a part of. And
pixels and fairy dust, exactly.
And like, I think leaving like after this story, I don't know what's going to happen with Wall Street Bets. I don't know if they're going to pick another target or have another big battle in the markets, but like the sentiment that everyone feels is like this is a rigged game and the markets aren't free, and
I wouldn't be surprised if they got into Bitcoin.
I mean, that's literally what I'm thinking. Because Bitcoin is the long-term short squeeze on the entire system itself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's literally a different currency. It's a competing currency.
Yeah. And it's scary. You can't financialize and, lend out Bitcoin debt. Like, Bitcoin is scarce and verifiable by the individual. So, there's never any risk of that or information advantage. There's no such thing as that. Everyone has 100%. Yeah.
I mean, it really does. And so, but you have hedge funds embracing it, oddly enough. They're saying put 5% into Bitcoin now.
No, I wouldn't say you have hedge funds doing that. You have a few hedge funds and a few like financial investment influencers that are like getting into Bitcoin.
But like some pretty major ones have said like you need to start buying Bitcoin, and that's crazy to me because like it's being recognized. So I think Bitcoin's going to be a lot bigger than people think. I mean, I've read the bull thesis and all of that, and I specifically with Tesla coming out and saying that they're going to allow it for payments. That's a huge deal. I mean, you've just solidified it as a currency.
That's nuts.
Major corporation. Yeah. This is the beginning. I mean, and I guess what I was going to say is politically speaking, or even just, I guess, how people perceive this is now you have a lot of people who were just disenfranchised by this financial market, who just got told that they weren't worth anything and that the rules of the game don't matter when they try to do anything to take down what they perceive as, you know, the hedge wall.
or just make some money.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody was malicious in this. It was as simple as, I think it's going to go up. I want to make money. I have, you know, my wife's surgery to pay for. I have a dog that needs surgery. Like, I saw so many stories on wallstreetbets of small people who were like, I don't have a lot, but I invested 500, and because it went to 400 and I invested at 40, I can pay for my dog's surgery.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality here.
Yeah.
That's the people that were just targeted and told that they, you know, can't do that.
Right.
It's absurd. I mean, so whenever you think about Bitcoin, that's crazy, because what are a lot of these people fed up with? The financial market and the manipulation. What is the specific point of Bitcoin? It's blockchain.
Yeah.
It's secured. I mean, manipulation, I'm sure eventually will happen in some way or another, because we're going to figure out a way, right?
Yeah.
But
always do.
But it's going to be a lot mitigated compared to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That leads me to ask, and I'm sure other people want to know as well, and I'm sure it's also kind of a joke. I didn't look too much into it, but what the hell is Dogecoin?
Doge's love.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of questions about this.
That's hilarious.
So Dogecoin is this. Dogecoin actually helps make a good point about all of the rest of the alternative cryptocurrencies or altcoins that you'll hear about.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin was the first and the only cryptocurrency for a while. It was the innovation.
Right.
And around in probably 2012, like 13 experiments started to come out where people kind of forked the code and made something that was similar but slightly different.
Okay.
Optimizing for something different.
The main thing that's different between Dogecoin and Bitcoin is, like he just said about Bitcoin, there is a finite amount of Bitcoin available.
Okay.
Right? And there's not more being made. Dogecoin is actually inflatable, just like our regular currency.
Oh, okay.
So more can be mined, more can be made.
So that's why they're trying to get it to $1.
Well, they're
or whatever that, or is that a joke?
No, they're trying to do it.
No, they're trying.
People are just trying to make money, and they're trying to dump their bags on other people, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. Like, Dogecoin, out of all the altcoins, a lot of them were serious projects, and a lot of them were scams, and a lot of them. And then Dogecoin was literally a meme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dogecoin was made and forked from Bitcoin to be a joke and to be used for like donations.
Yeah, it's been
basically as a toy. It's been totally abandoned. The code hasn't been updated since 2018 or something. And now Dogecoin is like number 8 in market cap, meaning like the value of the entire currency of all of the cryptocurrencies.
The power of marketing.
And this perfectly explains the value proposition of Bitcoin, because all of the other altcoins are all shitcoins. You know, they are all copies and experiments that came afterwards that can't replicate it, and that are really just more controlled
pointless.
Or are pointless.
That's just, I mean, it's the same thing over again. Like, what's the point? It's the same thing a lot of the time.
But it's a tragedy, though, because people get interested in Bitcoin. They like hear about Bitcoin, maybe get interested in the idea, and then they get distracted or sold
by a shitcoin.
By a shitcoin or by Doge, and fucking Elon tweeting about Doge. He caused a lot of this, and now people that I told to buy Bitcoin 2 years ago.
Hey, how do I buy Dogecoin?
Yeah, I'm like, the last text was like from 2 years ago, and I was like, hey, you should buy Bitcoin. They would have been up 20x, and they're like, hey, how do you buy
Doge? My cousins made $600 on Dogecoin.
On Dogecoin. Good for him. Please tell him to sell it and buy Bitcoin.
I have. I've been saying buy Bitcoin. And that's the thing is, like, I don't even necessarily disagree. I can't disagree with Elon as much as I would like to, because like his thesis there for it being popular, he's right. That's the power of marketing. I mean, there's something to be said for thinking that the most absurd thing might happen just because it's funny. Well, that's the entire point of the currency.
Yeah.
Right? That's like you said, it's a meme.
Yeah.
People like memes.
Yeah.
So people are going to buy the meme. And it would be hilarious if it actually became a nationally used currency. Like, it would be fucking hilarious if I could walk down to Taco Bell and buy, a taco with Doge.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing is, like, yeah, that seems really out there, but especially considering the last decade, I mean, are we really buddy to judge what's out there?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's
right.
totally a thing that could happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want it to, because I agree with Austin. I at least think someone needs to come back and manage the project, right? To some degree. But
they need to start over, in my professional opinion. But I mean, yeah, you're totally right. It's like all marketing and memetics, and it's crazy how like
it just works.
Powerful that is. Yeah.
I mean, it's the same reason.
Saw Doge, like, what? Someone's getting rich off Doge. It's some coin stock. Like, I don't know. Like, I'll buy it. Okay.
Right.
Like, that's literally what so many people
No,
do.
my cousin was literally playing. We were playing Hell Let Loose, which is just like this military WW2, like 50v50, and he was going around in like the voice procs chat, going, "Buy Dogecoin," and people were like, "Already did, bro."
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
That's all my Twitter feed was. It was just people I've known for years being like, "Well, I bought $5 in Dogecoin.
Dude,
what do I do now?"
These people are all going to be posting in like a week, like, "Oh, my Dogecoin's at 92 cents now."
Oh yeah, I mean, what was it at 8?
No,
8 cents. It's gonna.
I don't know, man.
It's gonna happen.
I don't watch the Dogecoin charts. Those aren't the charts I watch, but like people, there's a lot of weird energy out there, and now average people, like, we have more access to the financial markets, and there's just like more money, and prices are more high. Like we're like in 1999, like in the tech bubble, like before things blew up and like the whole economy crashed. Things were really wild at first. Like, a lot of random people were making money. People were hearing about these random stocks like pets.com. They raised a bunch of money, and then it was like a totally failed project. And like a bunch of people were borrowing money to speculate. But things just got like wild and weird and frantic. And then like the market dumped. And like, I feel like everything we've talked about in this conversation is like giving me vibes of that. Like, things are like energetic and like weird and
there's more people than ever before. I was actually going to correlate this ironically to cyberpunk because it's kind of like, how they had the styles of neo kitsch and all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the same absurdist art and energy, but just applied to everything. That's the same energy we're talking about whenever people are like, "I love that meme. I want to buy that currency. Let's make it real." I mean, it's kind of the same thing, just like this idea of everyone wants something new. Like, we're kind of tired of the old thing, and we want something that's drastic, that's dramatic, that's different. And I mean, that's been kind of on the rise in general in society. If everybody's really tired of this shit, whether that's like a serious note or just from an artistic standpoint, it's like, come on, let's do something new. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of the lure to stuff like Dogecoin, because it's funny, it's absurd, and it's weird, and it would be hilarious. Yeah. Because like, if you look at the world of something like cyberpunk, that's exactly what it plays on. Yep. And
it's like the over exaggerated.
Exactly.
Almost.
Yeah. Exactly. But that's what people are into. We like the over exaggeration. Yeah. And it's what's selling right now, and what people are buying right now.
And I mean, historically, I think that's been the case too. Just everything that's been new that we probably use now that was new like hundreds of years ago was probably absurd to some people.
Right. I mean, people made fun of AR and VR. Yeah. Virtual reality and augmented reality. People were making fun of that back in the 70s of how goofy it looked. Well, here we are. And now we're selling $1,000 versions of it. Yeah. You're setting up now we're
sensors in your rooms.
Right. And now we're going to the next step. Gabe Newell just gave a huge talk on brain interface devices and how he thought that was the future. I mean, 2021, I believe they're going to have their first project dev build out of Galea.
Wow.
is what it's called.
You got to listen to our. Have we released a podcast where we talked about video games?
I don't know if we have.
I think we have.
Maybe we should.
You would have liked that podcast, or we should have a similar conversation because we were going deep on.
It's gonna be the brain dance.
VR worlds. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting stuff. I mean, we're on the verge of something, and
I would be down to talk about that on an episode in the future.
Yeah,
sure.
Totally.
You to explore that more because I don't think we went too far in depth into it. Just kind of like
literally
scratched
just the
Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, that's what Gabe Newell was talking about to a degree. He wasn't talking about necessarily that. He was more talking about if your brain is a computer and if we can target these things and read them, we can also write to them. So what happens when, the first app comes out that is, I want to sleep, and you click a button and it lets you go to sleep because your brain literally tells it to. That's wild, right? But that's the future, and it's coming just like we said AR and VR was. Like it's about here. The technology is there. We already saw Neuralink with Elon Musk. Like we saw a live representation of this happening. It's coming, right? This is no longer science fiction. This is no longer, pixels and fairy dust. It's about here. And that's a really wild time to live in because, I mean, he went further and said stuff about what happens when you have a personality trait that you really don't like and you just turn it off in the settings, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. And it's another level of human agency too. Like that's another step beyond the already like weird quantum based free will that we have. That's like it's really metaphysical, but like it's crazy to think about. Like I could just turn off being angry,
right?
Or something like that.
Buddhists already discovered that, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did I sound like such a stoner when I said that? It's true, man. You can do it. You just got to sit in a cave for 10 years. That's it. You can get all this stuff. You think you can't levitate and fucking turn off your anger and turn off your sadness? I've seen it.
There's just V2 of that, though. It's quicker.
Yeah, it's true. It's a shortcut. Another shortcut.
That'll bring so many new moral... Probably
quandaries,
like moral even debates on like is that even
right
like supposed to happen?
You already have, because that's the thing, what like 90% of America identifies as evangelical, and a lot of them identify as some type of Calvinist deterministic viewpoint of like they don't necessarily believe in free will. Well, how are you not going to believe in free will when I'm literally like, you don't feel that anymore, do you? Like, that's kind of weird. It's going to be really wild how many people's brains are broken and then fixed.
It might be perceived as witchcraft at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Here, I think that's like and in the Western world.
That's where cyberpunk went. That's where that genre went of like the brain dance and cyber psychosis and things like that. Of like, it's science fiction. So was everything else, and then it became real. Yeah, because it drives our perception. It drives our reality in some way, however small. Like the same people 80 years ago that were playing little board games or reading books about stuff like the concept of gray goo or like nano machines are now the same people that are working at NASA actually building self-replicating machines. Because that's the thing that they're working on. And it's crazy. I mean, it shapes your perception of the future, and that's where it's headed. Slower or longer to go, Yeah.
Things are going to get weird.
I'm real fucking weird, man.
Yeah, like there's like I'm sticking with Bitcoin right now. Like that's something I understand.
Have you seen the interviews? That's a really great example of this. The interviews on YouTube, there's a guy, I can't remember his name, it starts with an S. He interviews people like, former veterans and stuff, or people that are like survivors of abuse or things like that. And he does it in VR. Okay. And so you're just sitting there watching him talk to this guy.
Interesting.
And he looks like fucking Winnie the Pooh. And he's talking about war crimes. And it's wild, but it's just like a microcosm of the absurdism, everything we've been talking about. It's like people love it because it's a weird, comfortable medium, and it kind of works. Yeah. Oddly enough, like you feel like you're more personable. And so like he specifically was talking to this guy that was like a gunship guy. He shot the gun in a gunship operator, and he was talking about how they have like a +1 rule about if there's an enemy combatant in the building, you're allowed a +1, which is like their wife or their kid.
Really?
And just like, how did that make you feel? And it's Winnie the Pooh. And it's weird as hell.
Wow.
But it's also like, it's just so surreal.
Yeah.
That's just surrealism, I guess, is what I'm talking about. Just how strange the future is, but how we like it.
See, people are going to make all sorts of strange experiences out of like visual, just like data, like visual and audio data and clips and everything that they get, create VR experiences. Like we were kind of talking about iDozers, and like that's an early example of that. But when you combine all the visual elements and then maybe you have different sensory parts you can interact with, you know.
Well, and that's what
it's weird.
Gabe was talking about, if losing our fleshy, perceptions, because everything's just an inferior to him flesh object that you're perceiving a feeling through, like your ocular nerve, right? Yeah. That's obsolete when you can tap into the brain directly. And then things like, seeing other colors than the spectrum start to make more sense. Like, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
want to see ultraviolet.
Weird
I want to
shit.
see why it's ultra.
Right. Like, weird stuff starts making sense, because like, what does that look like? I mean, it's kind of like a universe inside your own head, which is why I use the Matrix thing. Of like, if you can change anything, if you're perceiving it from a new sense, basically, what is that like? Are we gonna become like psychics or something? It's like Cerebro? I don't know. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's weird, but it's real.
Yeah.
And it's coming.
Well, it's realish.
Yeah, I mean,
but lots of things are coming.
Yeah.
It's relish.
But
I mean,
you don't underrate it, don't overrate it.
Yeah.
But everyone's probably underrating it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't underrate it. Like, I went through the full VR red pill a while ago and was like, fuck, it's taking over. But now I'm like, okay, take it easy. We got a few years.
Well, see, like, I'm really excited. I want to get like an index. I'm just holding off now because I'm like, what is next coming? Because I was a first gen VR and I really liked it. I didn't honestly use it a ton, but the experiences that I had while using it were insane. There was like this game that was basically battle royale, like PlayerUnknown battle royale, in VR.
Wow.
And it was crazy, man. Yeah, like, it was so insane to just be walking around this map and like physically taking cover, like ducking down, because the game recognized that.
Wow.
Like, that is a new level. Like, you already thought PUBG was like scary enough whenever some motherfucker just jumps out of a wheat field at you.
Yeah.
What about when that's like, you're in VR,
Yeah.
you're in your living room.
What if you're playing that game and you make some fool fall over and like bump his head on his dresser? Like,
someone
he was
dies.
in crouch and you jump up on him when he falls over.
Someone gets brain damage because you scared them too bad in fucking VR.
Totally owned, dude.
Owned, bro.
Nice. So, thanks for coming on, Josh.
Yeah.
We gave you no intro whatsoever, so maybe we'll have another episode where we can talk about other things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It'd be cool to have an episode about VR and all of that. Yeah.
I mean, I love that. I think, like we were talking about, I think things like gaming are going to be a lot more popular than what was previously realized. I mean, it's going to be like theaters 2.0. Like, it's going to be a huge advent soon, because like everybody games now. Everyone.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's like Twitch channels of like grandma and grandpas that like play Skyrim.
Yeah, Skyrim grandma.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Or like, it's for everyone, and it's going to be interesting to see how far it will go.
Skyrim grandma, that's a good freaking.
Yeah, all she does is
it's a good pitch. If someone pitched that to me, I'd be like, yep.
She like picks flowers. She like I can't remember what else she does. I mean, she does like combat stuff too, but like
she's just like pretty slow and
I don't even know.
She's just like fascinated that there's this other world. And I mean, that's the thing that's like, it's the next level interactivity, which is why people are so disappointed with Cyberpunk. But to be fair, the small parts that they did get done and get right in their allotted time were amazing.
Oh yeah.
Like, they were groundbreaking. I mean, like the visuals alone, specifically RTX, ray tracing was finally allowed to shine in a way that was just so beautiful. It's night and day to the regular baked lighting. It's just crazy. It's so cool.
Yeah. Did we? Yeah, we'll have to dive into this because we were talking about this. I think I was talking about ray tracing some, but like you know a lot more about like the kind of computer graphics side of things than I do. One
really interesting thing I found out this week was that from a graphics designer who was explaining why destruction, like in Battlefield Bad Company 2 or Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, just destructive environments in general, they're a lot harder to do with baked lighting. Because baked lighting just means like you made the lighting for the scene one time and it doesn't change, right? If something gets broken, well, then the lighting doesn't work, right? Okay. So that would obviously make something very hard. It's just like if you had that like lamp and you're sighting a lamp down here, but you can't move it at all or something like that. It's not dynamic whatsoever. Yeah. To give just a small layman's picture of that. But basically ray tracing allows it to happen. Because if it's global illumination where it's actually simulating real light from real sources instead of just this faked light, that's game changing.
Yeah, that's simulated physics, simulated light rays that simulated bounce off at the correct trajectories.
Right, but because of that, just for light, that's going to mean that you get destructible environments again. Yeah, because you don't have to worry about that. That's not a engineering problem anymore.
I'd never heard about that correlation.
It's crazy.
That's interesting.
I'm super excited. That's one of the things that a lot of people thought ray tracing was this gimmick, and I was like, no, it's not. It's next level. Yeah. And this is an example of that. Is like now you have these beautiful environments, but also they're more interactable. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Awesome.
Diamond hands.
Diamond hands. What a way to start. That's a meme. I'm mad Bitcoiners didn't think of that first.
Yeah. Diamond rocket hands. Ships and diamond hands, man.
Yeah, man. I have diamond hands. You know what that means?
Does it have to do with Melvin?
Kinda. No. It just means like you're not gonna like let go of your shares.
Yeah, you're not gonna sell until like
sounds like something Melvin would do.
Yeah, Melvin didn't have diamond hands.
No. They had paper hands. Toilet paper hands.
Oh shit.